Welcome to Initial Insights, a podcast from Lake Grove Presbyterian Church. Each week, friends gather to open God's Word, explore the Scriptures, and listen together for God's wisdom. Join us as we share our first thoughts, questions, and initial insights. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Initial Insights podcast, a podcast of Lake Grove Presbyterian Church. My name is Greg Allen-Pickett. In 1 week, I will be one of the pastors at Lake Grove Presbyterian Church, joined by
Laura Fuller, your lead director of Discipleship.
Yes, and we are excited to be recording this podcast for you from
Honduras.
Yes, we are just outside the city of Comayagua, which is about an hour and a half from Tegucigalpa, which is the capital city of Honduras, and also a very fun word to say.
It is.
Tegucigalpa.
If you look at the map, we're right in the very middle of Honduras right now.
Yes, and we did a tour of colonial Comayagua, and they said it's the geographic center of Central America. They were very proud of that.
They were very proud. So we were standing right in the very middle of the Americas.
Yeah, and now we're coming to you. This is a podcast that we're doing from the hotel where we're staying in Honduras. We'll both be headed back, me to Nebraska and Laura to Oregon here tomorrow. And we'll probably upload this on Monday, so you'll see it in a few days. But wanted to get this one recorded, share a little bit about what we're doing, do a little bit of a Bible study with you. And yeah.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, the scripture, so we're here with an organization called Agros that Lake Grove Presbyterian Church has been partnering with for years. And they're starting a new project in Honduras. This is a place where they used to work, and then they shifted much of their work to Nicaragua and to Guatemala. And they're shifting work back to Honduras now, still doing some of the work in those other countries, but they're building, they've got a sort of new model that they're building here. And it's agricultural development, trying to break the cycle of poverty through empowering people with agricultural tools, but there's also a spiritual component to it. And
everything they do is because they have faith in Christ. So everything that they do, whether it is working out in the field, supporting women in Guatemala, all of it is undergirded by the fact that they are doing this work for the sake of Christ.
Yes. And with this new project, they're thinking a little more intentionally about how to incorporate spiritual development and development of values and that sort of thing into this project. So they invited a number of church leaders and faith leaders down to kind of learn about the project and also to dialogue with them about ways that we can incorporate spiritual uplift and teaching of values in the agricultural development project, because their main focus is what they do really, really well is technical agricultural development, breaking the cycle of poverty by helping people learn how to farm and get them land so that they can farm and control their means of production.
And also connecting them to big buyers
Yes.
So they have once they plant their crops, they're already spoken for.
They know they have a market for them. And so this is all part of their model. And we're here with pastors from 3 other churches. And we toured the site of the new project and then spent a half a day sort of brainstorming and just throwing around ideas.
Yeah.
It was really exciting.
And we were doing that not just with these folks that were coming from the States. We were doing this in partnership with the staff that is here in Honduras, but also some staff that was coming from Nicaragua, and saw some familiar faces. So those of you that have traveled to Nicaragua, we saw Alpamara and we saw Joel. So there's familiar faces from the years that we've been involved with Agros. And of course, Alberto was there and David.
Yeah. So that's some context. And when we sat down to meet with both the Agros staff and these other pastors who traveled here, I was invited to lead a devotion, and I used one of Jesus' agricultural parables. And since Initial Insights is a Bible study podcast, I thought I would share that parable, and Laura and I would talk a little bit about that parable, and then also sort of weave that in to share a little bit more about the experiences that we've had here in Honduras over the last 4 days. So the parable comes from the Gospel of Matthew at chapter 13, verses 1 through 9. This is probably one of Jesus' best known agricultural parables. And there are actually a lot of agricultural parables, but this is one that I think will sound familiar to you. So it reads something like this. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got in a boat and sat in it while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow, but when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 160 or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. So that was the parable that we studied during our devotional time yesterday morning. Do you have any initial reflections on that?
Well, in just thinking that's so incredibly like it's on the nose of exactly what Agros is doing. They're helping people to learn how to farm. They literally are increasing the amount of production many, many, many times over. But it's they're living out this parable. They are physically doing these things, and people are watching and being able to see this good seed that is being planted. They know what that the purpose of Agros is to help people to learn how to, be raised up out of poverty, but they also know that they're doing it because they love the Lord.
Right, right. And the again, as Laura said, the grounding of Agros is that the reason they're here seeking to help break the cycle of poverty through agricultural development is because of our faith. It's to help people flourish as children of God so that and so the agricultural parable is both for Agros metaphorical,
Yeah.
but also literal, because we got to go to a farm site where they're working. And this is very similar to the sites that some of our members have visited in Nicaragua, where they farm in mesh tents and they're able to increase their agricultural output and production and teach the farmers how to become their own producers and then develop those markets for them. So they're literally teaching them how to plant their seed in good soil, but they're also seeking to this holistic development, both spiritual and physical and economic development. And so they're planting those types of seeds as well, seeds of faith and seeds of hope, really. And that really undergirds for me the work that we experienced on the site 2 days ago, is
Mm,
the sense of hope that is being cultivated in addition to the vegetables that are being cultivated.
yes.
Is that for the first time in their lives, some of these farm workers who have been day laborers for large agricultural conglomerates or for other landowners are now being able to benefit from the fruit of their labor and be forward thinking and like think with hope about the future, what their future could hold for them and their families beyond just the day to day of earning $2 or $3 a day working on somebody else's farm, but actually producing. And the end goal of Agros is to basically give each farmer a plot of land that they can sustain their family
Yeah.
on. And the model is that they will finance the plot of land for them. So they'll pay down, but while they're paying down the finance, they're still making a decent living.
Mhm.
And then after 5 years, once it's paid off, these families on one plot of land have potential to make like ten to $15,000 from one plot of land in one growing season,
Yeah.
which is money they've never dreamed of, and it allows them to think beyond just the day-to-day of getting enough calories to make it to the
Right.
next day, right?
And one of the things that's really interesting about this particular location is that there haven't been a lot of NGOs in this area. And so these folks are really just beginning to catch the sense of that hope, which is very different than what we've seen in the other places that we have been to. So Agros is coming in as sort of this, not just a new entity like they hadn't known about Agros, but as a new model in general, that there's people that come in and they're caring for you. The idea that it sounds too good to be true, but they really are exactly what they say they are. And so seeing these families have kind of come to the realization, oh, this really is for us. This is people that are wanting to help us. And it's right at the very beginning. And that's a unique thing that we're getting to see here in Honduras.
Right. And Lake Grove is being invited to be part of this project from the very beginning.
Yes.
That's why Laura and I are down here, and we're hoping to get more of the church involved in learning about Agros's model and figuring out ways that, appropriate ways that Christians in the United States and our church, the U.S. church, can support the work of Agros and the work of the farmers that is being done here to continue to cultivate hope amongst the people here and to share the good news of the gospel, but in word and deed through our hands and our feet, and ensuring that we are helping people thrive
Yeah.
as precious children of God.
And that it is, yes, Agros is doing this work with the people, but then the people are coming from different communities around to the harvest, this new Harvest of Hope Center. It's not just an Agros village. And so they are then taking that hope and it's going back to their villages. And so people in those communities are also hearing what's happening. So there's this beautiful ripple effect that this particular model has the potential to bring to a rural community.
One might say that is a harvest that's 30, 60, or 100 fold from the original seed.
There you go.
Yeah, it's exciting because the old Agros model, which was very successful,
Yes.
is this agro village or agro aldea, and so they would move families onto the land, give them houses, give them a plot of land, and develop an intentional community around it. And there are multiple of these communities scattered both throughout Honduras and Nicaragua that have graduated, if you will, have literally broken the cycle of poverty and no longer need the inputs from Agros except for the market access that they provide.
Right.
And I know that Lake Grove has walked with a couple of those agro aldeas.
Bella Vista and La Benedicion, which is, I think we got to visit that last year.
Yeah. And so this new model will, in fact, build an agro aldea on the plot of land that they bought for those families that live in the surrounding areas that don't own their own homes or their own land. They'll be able to move onto the property and get a house and a plot of land. But also, there are 6 villages surrounding this plot of land that they've bought. And some of those folks do own their own land or they do own their own houses. And so Agros is going to come alongside them and meet them where they're at and provide them the same services, the training and the market access that they're providing to the folks that are moving on to the actual site. And so it's, as you described, it's this ripple effect that's going to actually transform a whole region in Honduras. And it's a really exciting model. And I think some of you may know that my background prior to going to ministry was actually studying and working in sustainable development. And so I got down here and started learning about this, and I was just like in heaven because this is like combining my 2 great loves, which is the church and empowering the church to change lives and sustainable development models. And it's like all of a sudden these 2 things are coming together for me, and I'm just like, I couldn't be happier. And I'm hanging out with all these cool pastors and church leaders like Laura, and then pastors from churches up in the Seattle area, and then hanging out with the staff here at Agros, who are a mix of Hondurans and Nicaraguans and Salvadorans. And oh my gosh, this has just been an incredible 4 days here.
Yeah. One of the opportunities that we had while we were down here was to meet with, I met with a group of women from one of the communities, and Greg was meeting with some of the men who ended up also being pastors and lay leadership from the surrounding communities.
Yeah. So talk about the experience you had meeting with this group of women from the surrounding communities.
So the women, they were all rather shy, except for one, Veronica. She was very, very excited to talk about things. And there were specifically 3 women that shared. There were probably about 9 of them that came along. But just getting to hear a little bit of their story, and the women all are supporting from home right now. Sometimes they go and they support their partners or husbands in the mesh houses, but they're already connected with Agros. But we were focused specifically talking about faith and what faith looked like in their communities. And a lot of the women there have a strong sense of who God is, but the church community isn't their primary community. Their neighbors, the people that they are doing their day-to-day life with, are their primary community and where they are finding connection. And there is a sense of a hunger to have a deeper connection with faith. So there's really an opportunity for Agros to lean into perhaps empowering local communities in their faith. But the women were very dear. I wish we'd had more time with them to hear a little bit more about their stories. There was a single mom who's got 2 kiddos. And so she's the neighbor of the gal that has a husband that's working in one of the mesh tents. But they're all very excited about what Agros has brought so far to the community. They're past their skeptical stage, and they're just kind of catching on to the hope that there's a future. There's a future.
Yeah. And Laura, you keep referencing mesh tents. So that is the
Yes,
style of agriculture that Agros teaches. They build a mesh tent that basically covers the size of a football
it's
field.
huge.
And they do the farming within that to keep the pests out. And it also, I think, maintains some of the water and the humidity, so there's less
Mhm.
evaporation. And so that is the model that Agros is teaching here, that is a tried and true model that's worked well for them in Nicaragua, and also a farming model that they use here in Honduras. But Agros is doing it instead of as a large commercial farm, they're doing it to empower local farmers, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
They also do some out in the air farming, but they're
Yes.
just doing mesh tents at this particular site right now.
Yeah. And I had a chance to meet with a group of community leaders that included both mayor is the wrong term because these villages aren't incorporated as municipalities, but like the elected leaders of the village, as well as the faith leaders. So we met with leaders from three surrounding communities that surround this plot of land that Agros has bought. Some of them were municipal leaders, and then there is a Catholic church in two of the villages that doesn't have a full-time priest assigned to it. And so they empower their lay leaders to do all the things that the church does. And so the lay leaders were there. And then one of the villages, interestingly enough, and I have not experienced this in Central America, doesn't have a Catholic church, it actually has a Protestant church. And here in Spanish, every non-Catholic church is called an evangelical church. That's their generic word for Protestant, which is evangelical. And it happened to be a Presbyterian church. And I know a little bit about the Presbyterian and Reformed Church of Honduras. I've worked with them in other areas in the past. And so this guy and I connected and we chatted, and I'm hopeful, if it's appropriate, to maybe over time, see if there's ways that we can support this little Presbyterian church in this village called Buenos Aires, as we continue to support Agros and their ministry, and find out ways that we can connect with them that they're really that they're driving,
Yes.
that they're telling us what they need, and we're coming alongside them as best and faithfully as we can. To support the work of Agros and to support this cultivation of hope that they're working on here.
But they obviously really want to also know what's meaningful from this side of things and our experiences with, in the past with Agros, and also not just our connection with their ministry, but just ministry in general. Like, what are good practices of discipleship? How might these be transferable into the work that they are already doing? So they're calling on us for a few different reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been really cool.
It's been great. It's been great. What else? What other things?
Right now, all that comes to mind is the extreme lightning of last night. That's coming to mind. That's not to do with Agros, but
There's a gorgeous lightning storm. We didn't have it like right on top of us, but we could watch it, and it was illuminating some of the mountains and hills around here. Yeah, and we're staying in a hotel that's just outside of the city of Comayagua. And this morning we took a little walk out in the Honduran countryside.
Yeah, because didn't take very long down the road, and we're passing fields of cows and old trees and
Yep, and the pavement ended, and we were walking on dirt roads. And like my heart is so happy in places like this. And so I had gone out early one morning, the first morning we were here, and had gone for a walk. And as you walk up into the hillsides, there are families that live up there. And so it was early one morning, and they were all coming down the hill for work. And I was this large, blonde, white man walking up the hill. And I had a lot of very curious stares and a few questions. One person even offered to give me a ride. They thought I was lost.
really kind.
But I enjoyed my walk so much that I recruited Laura to walk with me this morning. And we had a delightful walk and talk. And it's been fun also for me getting to know you.
And you, Gregory II, finally getting to meet
There
you.
it is.
There it is. We've been trying to fit it in. Gregory II.
Yes. So yeah, and so last week, as those of you who tuned into the podcast last week know, I was able to spend some time with Pastor Susan, in Colorado, and it's been great this week to get to know Laura, and I can't wait to get up there and get to know all of you. But this has been a really great way to sort of ease into my ministry at Lake Grove, and to get to know the staff, and through the staff get to know the congregation, and yeah.
You guys are gonna love him. He's gonna be a great fit for us.
Oh, thank you. God willing. So yeah, trying to think anything else that jumps out at you from this experience. I was struck by the quality of the staff that Agros
Oh,
has.
yeah.
Um, as I mentioned, I've done a lot of sustainable development work in Latin America, and I've worked with a lot of different staff people. They have managed to recruit some really remarkable folks that are both technically proficient, but also have a heart for this work and understand the mission of Agros being based in um, the reason we're breaking the cycle of poverty is because Jesus tells us to care for the least of these, right? They understand that. That's embedded in the ethos of the organization, and they've managed to hire staff that embrace that mission, in addition to being not just technically proficient, but technical experts,
Yeah.
right? These folks know what they're doing. And we've met both agricultural technical experts, but we also hung out with a guy who is like a community development guy, and he's worked for a bunch of different organizations around Honduras. He worked for Agros for a while here in Honduras, and then Honduras operations for Agros slowed down, and so he left the organization. But now that they're ramping back up, they hired him back, which is always a good sign. It means that he believed enough in the organization. He wanted to come back and work for him, and he didn't burn any bridges. And they hired him back. And man, he's a great, just a thoughtful guy. He was in my session when I met with the community leaders. And so watching him build trust
Mm.
with the community leaders and ask them questions and, draw information out of them, it was really beautiful to watch because, we were up in villages that it's possible have never been visited by somebody from the United States.
Yeah.
And we were sitting in, it was a school, that had been built by the municipality with no doors or windows. It was just a cinder block building that had openings all across the top and the sides so the air could blow through with no windows. And for these folks to come, and because of the Agros employee, there was enough trust that they were willing to open up
Yeah.
with these foreigners sitting in their midst. And that was really meaningful to me, to watch just the quality of staff that Agros has, and that they're both technical experts and also have a real heart for the mission and ultimately a heart for Christ.
Yeah. That community aspect is so critical for them to go in and to make those connections and to gain the trust of the communities. I would also say that there's a lot to be engaged in prayer for with Agros. You talked about new staff that's coming on. They're continuing to bring more staff on. So prayers for the new staff and their onboarding, prayers for just this new model as they're finding their way and how this is going to function, the things that are going to be different, the things that are going to have to shift. Agros is really good about adapting as they need to. I know that Alberto was very much appreciative of the prayers that he knows that have happened, and let's continue to lift this ministry partner up in prayer.
That is a great point because not everybody feels a call to travel to Central America. And I get that. It's where my heart is happy. And so I'm happy to be here, and I will come back every chance I get. And also, one of the things that the folks who have engaged with Agros at Lake Grove talked about before you came down, Laura, and you shared the notes of that with me, is how do we share the good news of what's happening here and the good news of the gospel with folks at Lake Grove about this partnership, even if they're never going to necessarily travel to Central America? What are ways that they can get involved? And prayer is the first one that comes to mind, right?
Absolutely.
And I love that you, prayers for the Agro staff here as they grow and build out this new model. And then prayers for the group of us pastors from the United States that were here as we think with them about ways that churches in the United States can engage with this ministry in a helpful way,
Yes.
in a humble way, in a way that helps to build up the work that Agros is doing here and build up the local church and the local communities. Because this is delicate work, and it's important work. And so we want to make sure we're doing it well. And I think there's such a strong base of that, both at Lake Grove and with Agros. But with this new model, we're dreaming about what does it look like to partner with Agros in this new model they don't need teams to come down here and do manual labor. That's not what this partnership is about. And that is a meaningful way of doing mission, and I don't in any way say that that's a bad thing.
It's just not this one.
Correct. And so, what does it look like for us to partner with them? What would it look like for teams to come down? And then what are other ways that we can get our congregation in Oregon engaged in this ministry, through prayer, through learning about it, through advocating for it, all those things. And it'll be fun. I'm very excited about dreaming with you and the folks at Lake Grove who
Yeah.
love Agros to really share the love of this ministry with the church there and get it connected to the communities down here and just figure out ways that we can be brothers and sisters in Christ together.
Yeah. Seeing lives transformed from poverty, but also through Christ.
Yes. Yeah. So anything else?
Just a formal invitation to you out there to come and join us on an Agros trip sometime, to come and see for yourself. But again, like Greg said, pray. You can participate in this ministry like right now, this second.
Yeah. And you're gonna have trouble keeping me off of these trips. You know that, right, Laura?
It's all right. We love that. We love your enthusiasm.
Okay, well, good. So yeah, I'm excited to learn about the other mission partners, both domestically in and around Portland,
Yes.
as well as the international mission partnerships at Lake Grove. As I said when I was up there in April, my heart beats for mission. This is to me, this is the core of the gospel. And this is what you're going to hear from me, probably more than you want to. But it is what it means to live out the gospel with our hands and our feet, and to yeah. So I'm very excited about this, and I'm very excited to be joining Lake Grove in this partnership.
Yeah. Well, it's been a beautiful trip. So thank you for your prayer support that you've already been sending this way for this trip, and the encouragement. And we look forward to getting to tell you more and show you some pictures and just bring you in along this journey.
Absolutely. Well, we'll close with a word of prayer. Do you want to pray, or you want me to?
Sure.
You'll pray for us? Please do.
God, we thank you for this time in Honduras. Thank you for our mission partner, Agros, for all the work that they have already been doing, for the work that you already have planned for them. And God, I thank you also for all the leaders and the way they have been seeking how they can serve you most faithfully. And I ask that you would make those paths forward really clear, no matter what they are, that you would give them attentive hearts and ears to you, and that, God, that you would provide us with opportunities to serve and support in meaningful ways. We are so grateful for the work that you have done here. Thanks for letting us join you. Amen.
All right. Well, with all those things said and done, until the next episode of Initial Insights, we'll see you later.